Hi, my name is James. Welcome to Active Church. I'm so glad you're here. We exist to be active in our faith and our love for others. Sunday gatherings are filled with fun, creative, and life-giving moments. If this is your first time here, grab the guest card in the seat back and take it to the lobby to receive a free gift. Coffee is also available in the cafe. You'll be with us for about an hour, and we want to invite you to join in with us, sing, laugh, and engage in this service. Feel free to take pictures, check in on social media, and share posts about Active Church. In fact, we'd love for you to take out your cell phone and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Active Churches. If you have little ones, check out Active Kids just across the way in our family building for a fun, safe environment for your kids to learn and grow. There's even a cry room for parents with newborns and infants to enjoy the live stream and the service as well. Thanks for joining in with us. We'll begin in just a few moments.
to Active Church. Let's stand and worship together. Let's sing. I live my life to the limit, where I'm at the end of myself. I see the edge, but I know below me, your love is waiting to catch. I'm falling into you, 'cause no one's gonna love me like you do. I've got nothing to lose, so can't stop falling into you. The rush I felt in the free fall, as I lost control of my life. Jesus, you always got me. Your love is never in doubt. I wanna love you like you love me. I wanna love you like you love me. I'm falling into you, 'cause no one's gonna love me like you do. I've got nothing to lose, so can't stop falling into you. Let's sing it out. I wanna love you like you love me. 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 1, 2, 3, oh yeah, I'm falling into you, 'cause no one's gonna love me like you do, yeah. I've got nothing to lose, so can't stop, won't stop falling into you, my God. I'm falling into you, 'cause no one's gonna love me like you do. Nothing to lose, so can't stop, won't stop falling into you, my God, 'cause no one's gonna love me like you do. Nothing to lose, so can't stop, won't stop falling into you, falling into you.
Good morning, Active Church. How you guys doing this morning? That's awesome. Love the energy. Hey, my name is Casey, and this is my friend Heidi, and we are a couple of the pastors here at Active Church, and we're just so honored that you would spend some of your Sunday here with us.
We are so glad to see you. If this is your first time at Active, grab one of these red cards in the seat back in front of you and fill it out, just a little bit of information, because we believe that you are worth knowing. Fill it out, take it to one of our 5 guest kiosks out there, and they have a small gift for you.
Yes, and it's an awesome gift. Maybe when you came in today, you saw some suds and bubbles going on. Today is our Active Youth Car Wash, where we are raising some funds to send our students to CIY. And we're super excited about this opportunity to partner with everyone this morning. If you haven't got your car washed today, there's a great tent out there. You could drop it off with a responsible adult leader, and we will make sure that your car is sparkling clean before you leave here this morning.
I brought 2 cars to get washed today, so I hope that they're sparkling clean. Today is a big day over in the kids building too. It is Promotion Sunday, which means the kids move on to the next age or grade level. It's a big deal for our kids. So if you walked in with a kindergartner, they get to leave a first grader, which means they get to move over to the big room called the Summit. It's a huge deal. If your child is in 5th grade going into 6th, that means they get to join us in this room next week. So if you see a new 6th grader in here next week, welcome them, bring them into the family, let them see what we get to do.
Yeah, we have a special thing we do each week called Active Youth, just for our 6th through 12th graders. So we would love to see your new 6th grader with us at Active Youth on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. It's an awesome awesome time. We love having our students here. And right now, church, what we want to do is greet each other. So can we reach across the aisle, give each other a hug, a handshake, a high five, and we'll be right back.
All right, Active Church, let's continue in worship, yeah? There were walls between us. By the cross you came and broke them down. You broke them down. There were chains around us. By your grace we are no longer bound. No longer bound. You called me out of the grave. You called me into the light. You called my name and then my heart came alive. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Oh, feel the darkness shaking. All the dead are coming back to life. Coming back to life. Hear the song awakening. All creation singing, we're alive. 'Cause you're alive. You called me out of the grave. You called me into the light. You called my name and then my heart came alive. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Oh, what a love we found. Death can't hold us down. You shouted out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. And what a love we found. Death can't hold us down. You shouted out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. And what a love we found. Death can't hold us down. You shouted out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. So you say, your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Oh, whoa. Your love awakens.
All right, church, we're going to sing one more song right now, so if you'll continue standing with us and sing. What fortune lies beyond the stars? I touch the sky when my knees hit the ground. Sing this out. Sing What Treasure Waits. What treasure waits within your scars? This gift of freedom gold can't buy. I bought the world and sold my heart. You traded heaven to have me again. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky when my knees hit the ground. Sing out, find me here at your feet again. Find me here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Come sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. Find me here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Come sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky when my knees hit the ground. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky when my knees hit the ground. Find me here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Come sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky when my knees hit the ground. Let's sing it out together. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Let's sing together. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, sing it again. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending realness of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves at 99. Oh, I couldn't earn it. Oh, you don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Thank you for worshiping with us. Please take a seat and turn your attention to the screen.
Active Church, so great to be with you this morning. We hope you're loving the experience so far, and we're so excited to see you today.
If this is your first time here, grab a first-time guest card and take it to any of our guest central locations you'll find around campus, and we would love to hook you up with a free gift.
We would also love to give you a download card for our original worship project, This Is for Love, which is available everywhere online.
Feel free to check in on Facebook and share a picture or two on Instagram.
We've got some more opportunities to share with you right now, so check it out.
First Step is happening today at 12:30 in the events room. If you are a first-timer here or have been here for a while but never attended First Step, we would love for you to join us today.
This is a chance to hear all about the heart and mission of Active Church straight from our pastors and leaders, and an opportunity to get connected deeper. We also offer free lunch and childcare just to sweeten the deal.
For more info about First Step, feel free to talk to one of our activators at any of our guest central locations around campus.
Today, Pastor Mike will be sharing some very important news regarding our Redlands location.
We are excited to lay out the location, launch, and full rollout plan for Active Church Redlands. We are also excited to invite you to our Active Redlands interest meetings on Wednesday, June 13th and Wednesday, June 20th at 6:30 p.m.
You received an Active 8 card when you came in today, which Pastor Mike will tell you more about later in the service. But we need you to think through those in your life, in your circle, and in your sphere of influence that you can invite to be a part of Active Redlands by attending these interest meetings.
This is a powerful opportunity to make an impact in the city of Redlands. So don't hesitate to jump into this. Come out, invite, and use your influence well by attending June 13th and June 20th at 6:30 p.m.
Next weekend, June 10th, will be Baptism Sunday, which we celebrate huge here at Active Church.
Baptism is a public statement about your relationship with Jesus, and we would be so excited to celebrate that next step in your faith with you.
If you or anyone you know is considering getting baptized, feel free to talk to one of our pastors or activators for more details.
Last but not least, summer is just about here, and that can only mean one thing. Kids are out of school and moms and dads are looking for fun things to do. This year, Active Church is doing something incredible. Here are some of our children's pastors to tell you more about it.
Thanks, Megan. And like she said, summer vacation is here, and we're excited to announce for summer of 2018, Kids Blitz!
You guys, it's going to be so much fun. It's happening the last week of July, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evenings, Tuesday, July 24th, Wednesday, July 25th, Thursday, July 26th, here at Active Ukaipa location. It'll be from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Parents, you can drop off your kids at Active Church Ukaipa. Tell us what we're doing.
Yeah, we're going to have so much fun with your kids. We're going to be adventuring here at Active Church, and we're going to be experiencing fun like they've never had before and discovering the wild sayings of Jesus and how that can help us live a wild life just as he did.
This wild life takes a lot of activators, so if you'd like to help, go ahead and sign on a serve card out in the lobby and turn it in. Just put on there, Kids Blitz.
We're looking forward to see you this summer.
This morning, we want to continue in a spirit of worship and reverence by taking communion together.
Right now, our leaders are coming forward and you will receive a communion stack with a cracker and a cup of juice.
If this is your first time in a setting like this, please don't feel pressured to take communion this morning.
If you are a believer in Jesus, this is a time to remember the sacrifice that took place on the cross and the forgiveness that comes from a life surrendered to God.
We look back to remember, we look inward to reflect on ourselves, and we look forward to the new life we have in Christ. Feel free to participate by taking communion as soon as you receive the bread and juice.
When you are finished, you can find a cup holder near the bottom of the seat in front of you to place your empty cup.
Thanks for being with us today. Our service will continue in just a moment.
Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm the Progress Together pastor here at Active. Right now in the room, we are doing communion. It's a way that we remember what Jesus did for us. We wanted to take a moment to tell you about what happens at Active throughout the rest of the week. Tuesday night at 7 p.m. is our Active Youth program. Students from 6th grade to 12th grade experience community, life change, and a relevant worship service. Also, we believe that you're worth knowing. The best way to do this is to join our connection groups. They happen at homes in Ukaipa and some of the surrounding cities and run for about an hour in groups of 6 to 10 people. We connect together through food, conversation, and reflecting. We hope to see you there.
Good morning, Active Church. How are you? So great to be with you. Hey, if you're new around here, we're honored that you have come to hang out with us, whether you're watching online or you're here in the room. We believe that you belong here, and this place is like family, and we love being a part of Active Church. And if you are new around here or newer around here, hey, please come and hang out with us at First Step today. We would love to feed you for free. We have free childcare, and we would love to be able to serve you in that way because we believe that this is the best place to be on a weekend. And you know, first steps are always nerve-wracking, especially if you have little ones around your house. You remember when they took their first step and you got your hands like covering the edges of the coffee table and you've moved everything out of their way so that they can kind of try to figure out how to walk, right? It's nerve-wracking for some of us, but it's also a time of celebration, because it's the first step towards discovering what God has created you for. And we believe here at Active Church that you are worth knowing and that you were created with significant purpose. And first step is the way to discover that. We are in the middle of a series called Repeat After Me, and one of the best ways that you can engage in this series is in a summer connection group. I'm going to throw the information here on the screen. If you'd like to be a part of this group, it's simple. It's Wednesday nights at 6:30 just across our courtyard in the events room, and all you need to do to sign up for it is text this number, text summer to this number, and we would love for you to be a part of that. We know that we talk about some things in a small window of time on a Sunday. Maybe you have questions, maybe you want to meet some other people, maybe you want to dig a little bit deeper into God's word, understand how it works. Wednesday nights starting this week, all throughout June, we would love for you to be a part of our summer connection group. And as I mentioned, we're starting a new series today called Repeat After Me. Now, that doesn't mean that I want you to repeat everything I say from this point forward, but we're going to begin a series called Repeat After Me because there are words and there are actions that are worth repeating. And maybe you've noticed these. In fact, I think a lot of us have noticed that there are things that are worth repeating. Like when you see somebody say something really powerful to another individual, or you see an incredible act of goodness and kindness. It's powerful, and you might say something like, oh, my faith in humanity has been restored, right? Because you saw something good, and it's worth repeating. There are things that we have seen throughout the years that have reordered the world, in particular, one person's words and one person's actions have reordered the world, and for some of us, it's reordered our world. It's changed the way that we move through life. It's transformed our hearts. This one person rises above everybody else, and of course, you know who I'm talking about, Mark Zuckerberg. No, I'm just kidding. Talking about Jesus, right? Obviously, we're talking about Jesus. And Jesus and his words and his actions have reordered the world, and for a lot of us, it's reordered our world. And over the next 4 weeks, we're going to take a look at some of the phrases that Jesus used to describe himself, and then engage how that changed how he treated people and engaged with people, and how these people moved from death to life. Phrases like, I am the resurrection and the life, which was a radical, risky statement to make during the time of Jesus. Or phrases like, I am the way and the truth and the life. And of course, one of my favorite phrases, I have overcome the world. The phrase that we're going to talk about today is one that was written by a guy named John. John was one of the first followers of Jesus, and he documented his relationship with Jesus because he wanted people to know that Jesus was the Christ, the Son of the living God. John had a really close relationship with Jesus. In fact, it's believed that he was the youngest follower of Jesus. He was about age 12 to 13 when he first started following Jesus. He was like a junior high boy, and Jesus was like an older brother. And so they were really close. They were really intimate because Jesus cared for him in a really significant way. And John wrote about that often. He would say that he is the disciple whom Jesus loved. It was as if he was saying, like, out of all the people that Jesus loves, I'm the favorite. And maybe you know that. Maybe in your family, you're the favorite. And here's the thing about being the favorite. If you're not sure who the favorite is, it's not you, right? And just for the record, in my family, I know who the favorite is. It's not me. It's just not me, all right? John was like the favorite disciple, the favorite follower of Jesus. He had a great relationship with Jesus Christ. And he shares this interesting phrase that Jesus talks about in John chapter 6. And he writes this as Jesus is speaking, I am the bread of life. And anyone who comes to me will never go hungry, and anyone who believes in me will never be thirsty. Now, in our 2018 mindset, we miss the context of what Jesus is talking about here. And so maybe our first question is, Jesus, bread, is it gluten-free? I've got a little bit of a stomach issue, and so I don't know if I can partake of that bread, right? Is it wheat or is it sourdough? But there's actually a deeper connotation that's happening here. In context, this statement was powerful. This actually took place a day after an incredible miracle that Jesus performed in the city. There were people that were following Jesus by the thousands. Everybody wanted to know who he was. And he began to gather people together and he began to teach them about the kingdom of God and what it means to follow God. And he shares a lot of really significant words with them. And at one point during the day, the disciples look at Jesus and they go, hey, would you send these people home into their places where they live because it's lunchtime and they're hungry. And so let's make sure that they can go and get replenished. And then if we want to invite them back, we can. And Jesus looks at all of his followers and he goes, you feed them. You give them something to eat. And immediately they all go to like a monetary place in their mind, as probably all of us would, right? They go, it would take more than a day's wage to feed thousands and thousands of people. And so I don't think that that's even possible for us to do. But one follower of Jesus, his name was Andrew. He was the brother of Peter, that Peter, the one that denied Christ 3 times and then got restored. That Peter who on this rock I will build my church after he asked a question to Jesus. That Peter. Andrew begins to just kind of look around and he notices a little boy with a sack lunch and he steals it. Okay, that's not in the story, but he comes back with this lunch. He says, I found this boy, and in this lunch it has 5 loaves and 2 fish. And immediately all the mamas go, yeah, his mom didn't pack him that lunch. Those of you that are parents, you know if your kids pack their lunch, you know that if you don't look over their shoulder, they're gonna have a lunch that's probably not going to be very nutritious, right? My 9-year-old one morning, she had packed her lunch and I went out and looked at it and she had 2 things of Oreos, she had a fruit cup, and then she had a banana, and then she had another thing of Oreos. And I was like, Riley, what are we doing here? And she was like, well, just in case I get hungry. I'm like, where's your sandwich? And she said, Dad, there's no room. I was like, I like the way you think. This kid comes with 5 loaves and 2 fish, and a lot of the intelligent, kind of logical followers of Jesus, the disciples go, we're not gonna be able to feed 5,000 people in 5 loaves and 2 fish. Andrew, this was a dumb decision. And Jesus takes the sack lunch and he says, have the people sit down. And if you know the story, you know that a miracle took place. If you don't know the story, Jesus prays and he thanks God for this moment. And he says, God, would you reveal yourself through me to these people and let them know that the one that they've been waiting for is here. And he breaks bread and he divides the fish and everybody eats. And at the end, they clean up. And there's 12 baskets full of food left over. The next day, they travel across the lake, and they're hanging out together, and this big crowd starts following Jesus again. And they come up to Jesus, and they say, hey, we want to know more about this bread that you can give us. And Jesus goes, I don't think that you're here because you want to know more about me. You're here because your stomach was filled yesterday for free, which is a good thing, but now you're here today to get more of that food. And that's when Jesus says, don't search for food that will satisfy you in this moment, but search for something greater that will satisfy you in every moment. That's why I'm here. I am the bread of life. And if you trust in me and if you believe in me, you will never go hungry and you will never be thirsty again. The angst that you feel in life will go away. You will be satisfied. You will be taken care of. You will feel like you have fulfillment. You will have a purpose. You will wake up in the morning thanking God that you have breath in your lungs and your heart is beating because there is value in this life and that God is giving you that value. When you seek after me and when you believe in me, everything gets reordered in the world and in your world. And we read those 2 words, never. And we go, I just don't know if I believe that. It seems impossible, Jesus. And Jesus would respond to that question this way, with man, it is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. All things are possible. And when you connect yourself to the heart of Jesus, all things are possible for you. What Jesus is asking this crowd and what he would ask us today is this question: what do you believe is possible? What do you believe is possible? There was a 14-year-old girl who, after watching the TV show Stranger Things, loved the 80s jam and said, "I love these 80s songs from way back then." And I went, 1980 right here. Like, hold on the way back when, okay? But she loved the music of this TV show Stranger Things and the 80s vibe that it had. And she loved particularly the band Toto, who played the song Africa. And now for the rest of the day, you're going to have that playing in your mind. You're welcome. But she created a Twitter account because she thought it would be awesome if Weezer, the band Weezer, covered the song. You know Weezer, maybe you're not familiar with it, but they did the song Buddy Holly, and they sung about how a sweater needs to become undone, and they did a song about Beverly Hills, and maybe you're familiar, and if you're not, get educated, become a Christian, love Weezer, okay? But she created a Twitter account in December, and every day, her and her friends tweeted at Weezer and said, "You should cover the song Africa by Toto." And every day she would ask her friends to tag them in a Twitter post. And you, Weezer, should cover a song by Toto called Africa. And she asked, and she asked, and she asked, because she believed that it was possible. And in April of 2018, just last month, they did it. Because a 14-year-old girl believed that it was possible. What do you think? What do you believe is possible? A group of people in 2015 got together in Las Vegas and they said, you know what would be great for Vegas if they had a sports team and if that sports team played in the NHL? That'd be fantastic if we had a sports team that played in the NHL, and we would call them the Vegas Golden Knights. And they were ridiculed for it. You want a hockey team in the middle of the desert? You are geniuses. It's going to melt the ice. They're not going to be good. Plus, an expansion team, a team in their first year is going to be awful anyways because they always get all of the bad players. Guys, this isn't going to work. And then in September of 2018, they launched their inaugural season. And they finished in first place in their division. And the Golden Knights are currently in the Stanley Cup final. And for you non-sports fans, that's really good, okay? Because some people decided, this is possible. What do you think is possible? What do you believe is possible? It was years ago that a man said, you know what would be great if I had access to every single book on the entire planet? And Jeff Bezos created Amazon. And now Amazon has turned into, you know what would be possible? I want to have access to everything on the entire planet, right? And Amazon was created because they believed it was possible. What do you believe is possible? There was a woman who thought it would be possible that everybody would be created equal. Didn't matter their skin color or background, but that everybody was created by God and in the image of God. And that's why Rosa Parks sat on the front of the bus and not the back, because she believed it was possible. What do you believe is possible? This is the question that Jesus invites us to consider when he says that I am the bread of life and you will never go thirsty and you will never be hungry. What do you believe is possible? Possibility is a story in your mind that comes to life in your behavior. There's a great pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals and some other teams. His name was Bob Tewksbury. That's fun to say, by the way. Bob wrote a book about what it means to be a pitcher and how his mind would engage and how that helped him be successful. And in his book, he has a great quote where he says that thoughts become things. What's possible in your mind becomes a thing in your action. And what's impossible in your mind will become a thing in your action. And often for a lot of us, we lean into the impossible instead of believing in the possible. That we see the world and we go, I got to disengage because it's a mess. We see our worlds and we say, I got to disengage because it's ugly. And then we look in our own hearts and we believe that our history dictates our past and our present and our future. That what we've done in the past has to show up in our present and in the future. And that we are just people that, well, I guess I really can't make a big impact. It's impossible for me to do that. And we disengage because we're too messy. The truth is that your greatest obstacle in life is you. What you believe is possible or impossible is dictated by how you see the world. And most often we see the world and we say no to the world because of us, because of the impossibilities that are building in us. And here's the thing, we're no different than the people who lived before Jesus and during the time of Jesus. There was a 400-year period before Jesus showed up on this planet where people didn't hear from God like they heard from God in the past. And so they created all sorts of systems and processes to try to engage God. They began to believe that the reordering of the world and the reordering of their world was impossible. And so they leaned back. They would say things like the political climate, it's just too divided, something that I know that none of us can relate to in 2018. I saw a commentator on a TV show just the other night on a documentary on 1968, because I'm a history nerd. And the guy said in the documentary that today we hold hate for one another stronger than how Americans held hate for Nazis during World War II. We hold hate for one another in our country stronger than Americans did for those that killed Jewish people. There was a social divide. There was a racial divide. There were tensions, and it was impossible to solve it. They were just like us. And then John records something pretty spectacular that happens that many people believed was impossible, and it became possible. John writes that the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. The Word of God became a human in Jesus. And it showed up. And it reordered and readjusted and turned the world on its side. And Jesus, as he gets to the end of his life before he goes to the cross, knew that there was a work that he needed to accomplish. And as he prays for you and for his followers, he said something really significant. And John recorded this. He said, I brought you glory on earth by completing the work that you gave me to do, that you sent me to do. Jesus came to communicate and to demonstrate what God is like. And Jesus didn't claim to have the best explanation of God. Jesus claimed to be the best explanation of God. And he introduced ideas that today would seem very natural, even to people who are not followers of Jesus. He introduced ideas like God is love, that God loves everybody, and that everybody matters to God. These are ideas that weren't created by movements and by people. They were created and spoken by Jesus, and then Jesus actually lived in this truth. And the people during that time lived in a very similar time that we live in, that culture devalued everyone. You didn't have intrinsic value in that culture. You had economic value, especially the women. You were a commodity. You didn't have dignity. And what Rome taught everybody, that was the government of the time during Jesus' time on earth, what Rome taught everybody was that you didn't have to care. You just needed to own. You just needed to watch out for yourself. That it was impossible for the world to change, but what was possible is for you to climb the ladder of success and to get whatever you need and whatever you can so that you could take advantage of everybody else around you so that you could be successful. And then along came a rabbi from Galilee, Jesus. And he taught some things that were radical. Maybe you are familiar with the teachings. If you're not, some of the things that Jesus taught was a story of a good Samaritan. We use that phrase a lot when somebody helps somebody else out. But for them, during that time, it was significant because Samaritans were not loved, liked, or even cared for by the Jewish people. It was the racial divide. And Jesus told this story about a good Samaritan who takes care of somebody who is beaten and broken on the side of the road and finances their recovery. He makes a hero of somebody that people didn't value during that time. That Jesus tells a story of a lost son, a son who tells his dad, I wish you were dead, I want my money, I'm gonna go and spend it. And then he goes and spends it and realizes that being home with dad is better. And he marks himself as somebody who can go back and at least be a servant. And when he goes back, he has a speech and he's prepared it for his dad. And his dad sees him from a long way off and he chases him down, not to pay him back, but to win him back. He tells a story of what it looks like to be in the kingdom of God. They call it the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, chapter 6, and chapter 7. Maybe you've heard it where Jesus says, blessed are these people and blessed are those people. He turns the world upside down in one particular statement where he says that you can love your enemies and you can pray for those who stand against you. Jesus taught about a widow who was great in the kingdom of heaven. She was a real person who in the temple took all that she had, 2 pennies to her name, and she gave it to the movement of God. And Jesus says that is a great leader, a great follower, because they gave all they had. But nothing compared to what Jesus did. If you want to know what somebody means by what they say, watch what they do. If you want to know what somebody means by what they say, look at their actions. And Jesus had some interactions that reordered everything for their time. There was a Samaritan woman at a well at noon who was well known amongst the men in that town, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. That many people knew this woman, and she was a Samaritan, so there was a racial divide, and she is at the well getting water, and Jesus sits at the well with her, and he asks her to dip her Samaritan bucket in the Samaritan water and to pull that Samaritan water out so he can put that Samaritan water on his lips and into his belly. Because Jesus didn't see ethnicity. Jesus saw his daughter, his child. Jesus interacted with sick people. It was believed during that time if you were sick, you were cursed. And this was a result of your stupid decisions, and this is why you were sick. And people would avoid sick people, and they wouldn't touch sick people, but Jesus would. If you touched a sick person during that time, it was believed that you got their disease and you got their curse. But when Jesus laid his hands on sick people and embraced them, something pretty spectacular happened. He didn't get sick, and they were healed. And then he spent time with the tax collectors. See, the tax collectors were the top of the chain, the gross chain. They were the top of the I don't want to be around them anymore types of people. They were the ones that everybody talked about. They wouldn't even be in the category of sinners. Every time you see the name tax collectors in the New Testament, it's always listed as tax collectors and sinners. They were the worst of the worst. And yet one of the main followers of Jesus was Matthew, who was a tax collector. And another tax collector named Zacchaeus, and you might know the story, but it was a man who wanted to see Jesus, so he climbs up in a tree because he was short. Jesus sees him in the tree and tells him to come on down because I'm coming to your house and we're going to have a meal together. Jesus broke all sorts of boundaries because the love of God led him to connect to the hearts of people. And then there was a centurion servant. He served a Roman guard. And this man comes to Jesus and says, hey, could you heal this servant of mine? And Jesus says, why should I heal this servant of mine? And the guy responds with, I think you could just say the words and he would be healed. And Jesus responds with, I've not seen such faith in all of Israel than in this man right here, who wasn't even a Jewish boy. These were the interactions that Jesus had with these people. And it reordered the time, because love will reorder the world when there are no strings attached. And this is what Jesus modeled for us in his words and in his actions. And if there were two phrases that would describe the church best during that time, that should describe us today, it's these two phrases: dirty hands and holy hearts. That we would be people that would get our hands dirty. We would be people that would work and we would grind and we would hustle because God has done a great work in us. Our world has been reordered, and so therefore we reorder the world. That God has changed my life, and we believe that he can change yours. That the hope that I wake up with every single day is a hope that I want you to know. That I may have dirty hands, but it's a result of my holy heart. And so let me ask you a question. What do you believe is possible? What do you believe is possible? Remember, possibility starts here. And Paul knew that and invited us to renew our mind. And he said this in a letter called Romans: do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your what? Your what? Your mind. You know what he's saying here? Don't conform any longer to things being impossible, but be transformed by the God who makes all things possible. Possibility is a story in the mind. And what is possible for you is dictated by your hunger more than your history. What are you hungry for? What are you chasing after? This is what Jesus said to those people: I am the bread of life. Don't search for something that will satisfy you in one moment, but search for the thing that will satisfy you in every moment. Just like bread fills your stomach, Jesus fills your soul. And in that Sermon on the Mount, it was Jesus that leaned into this idea that we pursue the things that we are hungry for when he said this: blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Because knowing Jesus is knowing life. It's coming alive again. It's being filled up. It's knowing that every step and every word and every action matters. Because God has given us great influence and we get to decide what we're going to do with it. And that's why we put this stat in front of our church as often as we can, that within 30 miles of our church, there is 1.7 million people that don't know Jesus. That wake up in the morning without hope, that wake up in the morning without purpose, that wake up in the morning wondering where they stand with God, wondering where they stand with people, wondering where they stand in life. They get up in the morning and they just do their job and they do their parent thing and they do their work and they do their whatever. And there's no significance and there's no purpose, but something deep within them tells them that there's something else that's happening here. And that's where the church needs to rise up and say, we are the people with dirty hands and holy hearts, and we want you to know the Jesus that meets and satisfies every need. Don't chase after those things that satisfy in this moment, but pursue the things that satisfy in every moment. And this is why, as a church, we decided that we were going to, in September of this year, launch Active Church Redlands. Because we believe that we are a church with dirty hands and holy hearts that need to share this truth of Jesus Christ. I want you to check out the screen. maybe for you, you've thought about what this means for our church. And so I want to tell you the quick story of what God is doing through this new location that we're launching in September. There was a friend of mine who served at this church for 22 years. His name was Rick Gunn. And this is a picture of him and his family when his son got married. Rick Gunn is an incredible, incredible leader. And 10 and a half years ago, he launched a church called Solid Ground Christian Fellowship. And they saw significant growth and significant life change. But over the last few years, they've been asking the question, what's next? And so we sat down and we began to talk about how we can partner with them and we can encourage them and love them. And it was in November of last year that he and I had a conversation at In-N-Out, because that's what a hamburger is all about. And that's where God does his best work. And I said to him, what would it look like for you to join us and be our Redlands location? And over the course of a couple of weeks and lots of prayer, Rick and his wife Sharon decided to become our Redlands location. And so maybe you're thinking, like, how does this work when we have a location? This is the trend that churches are doing, but what does it mean for us here in Yucaipa? Well, a couple of things. I want to give you some details. First, we're going to be meeting on Sundays at Crosswalk Church in Redlands. So we will have a group that will meet at Pastor Tim Gillespie's church, who spoke here just a couple of weeks ago. And I had the privilege of speaking at his church last Saturday. They're an Adventist church, so they don't meet on Sunday. They meet on Saturday, so we're going to actually take over their building on Sunday. We're going to have a live music team and a live team that's going to represent our values and our cores and our culture. And then we're going to have a live video teaching for them. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to be live here in the room. They're going to get the live video teaching in Redlands, and our live audience online will be able to hear the message of Jesus. We have over 30,000 people that engage us monthly online, and a lot of them are from Redlands. And we would love to see their faces show up to a building so that they can begin to build relationships with each other. We see God telling this incredible, incredible story through Active Church. And it was something that he laid right in our laps. And maybe the question that you have is, so tell me about the team. How's this team going to work? Well, it was last September that we hired someone to take over our Provide Hope pillar and invest some energy and some values and some purpose in our active youth. And I'm honored to tell you that the person that will be leading our active Redlands location is my good friend, Pastor Joe Valenzuela. Would you welcome him to the stage? Thank you, bro. Joe has been with us for almost a year, and Joe is a fantastic, fantastic leader and has become a really, really great friend.
It's kind of weird, like being on stage with your picture, like right next to you.
You like that?
I'm like right
can
there.
Can you do that pose for us right now? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Yeah, there you go. That was perfect. Joe is an incredible leader, and he has really shaped and adjusted what God has done in Active Youth and with our Provide Hope pillar. A lot of what we've been able to do outside of our walls here has been because of Joe's leadership. And so I'm honored to have him lead this next thing that we're going to do in Redlands to be able to provide hope. But before we get into the details, Joe, God's done a great work in you, and he's telling a good story in you. And so would you give us, in a nutshell, maybe 2 to 3 minute version of what God has done in you and how you got here?
Yeah. Before I even begin, like Mike says, I've been a part of the Provide Hope pillar and Active Youth, but it's been because of this team. And when I say the team, I'm not talking about the pastoral staff here or those who are employed by Active Church. No, I'm talking about the Active Church family. Like, nothing is possible without this community. You see, community is a vehicle for values. And I learned this in like a really almost difficult way as I grew up. I didn't grow up in the church. I was born on like a Saturday and at a fiesta on a Sunday. Like that was my life, and I just grew up with a totally different understanding of community. I think the best way to understand the way I understood community was transactional. Like you give something and you get something. Like you do this and you get this. You say the right things and you get this. You're a part of the right things, or you're around the right people, or you say the right things, and you move up, right? Whether that's socially you move up, whether that's in the family you move up, whether that's with your friends you move up. And I think as I grew up, my entire value system was built around this give and get. Give and get. Do well in sports, you get love. Do well in school, you get love. You do well at home, you get love. And so as I was growing up, I had a super strong sense of, man, I gotta work hard. Like, I gotta do the right things. I gotta play the right roles. I gotta say all the right things in order to be of value. And I don't think that's much different than most of the communities that we come from. Like, we think about our sports teams, think about the clubs. You know, maybe a lot of your kids are involved in like ASB, or they're running for class president, or maybe you're part of clubs like a Lions Club, or you're a part of some other organizations outside of Active Church, and it's usually transactional based. Well, as I was growing up, my family kind of went through a really like weird period when I went to high school, as happens with a lot of high school students around that age. And it felt like everything just imploded around me. Divorce was a part of the equation. I kind of lost a lot of sense of value as my parents were struggling through what a family was supposed to look like. So I started turning to other sources of community because, you know, I think we all crave that sense of belonging and purpose. And so you start hanging around the wrong people, or you start hanging around the people who maybe you shouldn't be necessarily around. And you know, like inside I knew that I wasn't in the proper communities, but it was the only communities I have because communities communicate value. And then I remember my friend, Stephanie, she invited me to church like over and over and over again. And I don't know if you know this, but like for somebody who's never been to church, like church is kind of weird. Like you walk in and you're like, what is this, like Christian karaoke? Like, what's going on? And then like some guy stands up on the stage, or some female stands on the stage and is preaching and reading from a Bible. Like, dude, you can get that book anywhere. You can go to a hotel and steal one of the books. Like, I don't know if I necessarily need that. So I always thought of church in the way that I thought of community. Like, you give something, you do something, you act right, you talk right, you're around the right people, you say all the right things, you say all the right prayers, you kneel, you bow, you step, whatever, you wear the rosaries, and I thought that's just what you did. But then my friend, she kept inviting me. I was like, nah, that's just not me. And so one day I made her feel really terrible for inviting me to church over and over and over again, because she was like annoyingly persistent. And so I came, and like I said, I was at a really like low point in my sense of community or my sense of family. And I heard that day the story of the prodigal son. I don't know if you guys know that story. It's a story about a boy who like leaves his dad, like disrespects him, all, like totally just like says, I wish you're dead. I wish you were dead, Dad. Like I don't want anything to do with you. And then he loses everything, and he's on his way home, and he's thinking in his head, like, I'm about to give it all. Like, I'm going to give it all just to be able to come back into my dad's house. And as he's approaching his dad, ready to say, like, I'm going to give it all, his dad says, I'm glad you're home. And for the first time, I think in my entire life, I felt that when I was there at that church. I felt like, man, I'm home. Like, I don't have to do anything. Like, I belong here without even believing what people are asking me to believe. Like, I'm loved here, and I haven't had to do anything. Because what Jesus began to do in my life was he began to reorder my understanding of community, where I didn't have to do anything to earn value, where I didn't have to be the number one star on the football field. I didn't have to do all the right things in school. I was important because Jesus had said I was important. There was value already intrinsically in me. And Active Church, I came out here because I seen a community that was doing that on an outrageous level. Like the amount of people who are coming to know Jesus here in this space just demonstrates the kind of love that we as a community, that we as an active team have demonstrated from day one. And it's such a beautiful thing to witness. And so I saw this happening, and then I had some friends who were out here, and eventually as I was asked to be brought on the team, I was just like, yes, like I want to be a part of this community that's welcoming people home, that they don't have to belong, or they don't have to believe, they belong here before any sense of that, because Jesus had loved us first. It was not, so that's why I'm here, Mike. Like I love what was happening in the community, and so it's been 9 months now, and I love to be a part of this community creation where people they can take off the mask, really. They don't have to do anything to earn their spot here because they're valuable first.
That's good. That's good. So why should people jump into this Redlands location with Active Church?
Man, okay. I think when it comes to Redlands, it has more to do with what Active Church is. And it really ties into why we need to really jump into where we're going in Redlands. If you guys haven't been on our live feed, or maybe you're watching on our live feed, what's up? Glad you're watching. Our engagement is just spiking like crazy. people from Redlands are tuning in. They're showing interest in what's happening here. They're engaging with us on social media. And the Jesus that I knew, that I read about, was super present with his people. He didn't say, hey, come to a hilltop. Hey, come do all the right things. He stepped in to people's life because Jesus was present with a purpose. And as we're beginning to ramp up things here and Active Ukaipa, we just see, man, there's such a awesome field that is waiting for us. And as a church, wouldn't it be a shame if we didn't step into this playing field? Yeah. We have this golden opportunity. And so there's people there who are ready for an active church, but we need to go to them. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the greatest reasons for us to go.
Yeah.
The second reason is because we're a community that, in every sense of the word, embodies you belong here before you believe anything.
Yeah.
And we want to be a church that does that over and over and over and over again. It's really a unique thing to do. So going down to Redlands, we can begin to expand our unique DNA of sharing this love of Jesus through the most authentic way possible by being present with people and also being a church that is so outrageously, ridiculously welcoming, a place that people can call home.
Yeah.
And the third reason, I think it's because Active Church, and I think I speak for many people in this room, has been a restart for a lot of us who have been following Jesus for a while. We really believe in telling a better story. We believe a better story starts with Jesus. But also telling a better story starts with a community who wants to help you and push you to tell a better story.
Yeah.
And we want to help Christians, whether that here or in Redlands, tell a better story. And we believe that in Redlands, a better story can be told with so many people there who have been kind of just walking with their faith, or they're kind of been just doing the whole kind of church thing. But man, they want to be a part of something. They want to pioneer again. They want to be a community that is sharing a mission. See, community doesn't happen on accident. I mean, we can fall and stumble into community, but a real community doesn't happen on accident. An active church has a community that's intentional. It's missional. It's not transactional, but it has so much purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And for us not to go, Mike, I think that's the biggest concern. Why shouldn't we go?
Right.
I think the things that we're doing and what's happening here at Active Church just far surpasses anything that's going to hinder us from going.
Right. That's so good. That's so good. Can we thank Joe for sharing a little bit with us this morning? There are some interest meetings that are coming up, and we want you to know about them. And it was also on the card that you received this morning. There's an interest meeting on June 13th and on June 20th, and it's at Crosswalk Church. And we're going to be talking about the mission and vision behind what we're doing in Redlands, because we want to embody what God is doing in you and in this place so that Redlands can see life change as well, that we can begin to really make an impact in that 1.7 million, that we can reach 1%. Because we want to see lives change. We want to see hearts stirred. And so there's some preview services that'll be coming up in July and in August, and then September.
Yes, September 9th, we're going to be launching Active Church Redlands. And if you want to be a part of this launch team, there's going to be a number that comes up on the screen. Would love if you just shot Redlands to that number, even if you just want more information about what things are happening. Because church, what we do is we tell stories together. And you know somebody in Redlands that needs to know about what's happening in Active Church, what's happening in the city of Redlands. And this is our story.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't just an organization story. This is our story, and we get to tell it together. So we would love for you to jump on that launch team. If you're feeling pulled or led in that way, I would love to talk to you more about what that's going to look like as we begin to unroll Active Church Redlands. But church, what you can really begin to do, share this word.
Yeah.
Spread this news. We have an Active Church Redlands social media account. Go ahead, follow it. It's on our Instagram page. Ask a friend to follow it because we're going to be rolling out all the information from there. But also, tell somebody.
Yeah.
And Mike, you have something to say about telling people, don't you?
I do.
A great story about telling people.
I do.
Yeah.
We have seen so many great things take place, and one of the things that we believe about you is that you're our greatest resource, and you are the ones that can tell a better story. I have found that just a simple reach out through Instagram and through Facebook and through other avenues allows people to move from not being here to being here, because a filled seat is a better story. And so when you walked in today, you got that card that has the rollout plan, but if you flip that card over, it has the active 8 on the top of it. We know that there are 8 people in your life, 8 people that you can move from believing that it's impossible for them to find hope to it's possible. 8 people that it may seem like they would never step into this place like Joe was just a few years ago, to actually being somebody that's now getting to lead a movement. And on that card, you'll see some categories at the bottom. There's the pre-Christian. These are just ways that you can identify some people in your life. Maybe they're pre-Christian, they're not here yet, but God is doing something in them. You've built a relationship with them. And so we want to invite you to put a couple of names down under the pre-Christian category. There in the center, you see the potentials. These are people that you're going, I just know that if I just extended them an invite, or if they just know that there's a place for them to belong, they would be a part of what God is doing at Active Church. And so we want to invite you to put a couple of names there. And then there's the possibles. These are the ones that you would label impossible before you walked into the room today. But now you know that Jesus says, I am the bread of life, and you will never hunger, and you will never be thirsty again. And so you're going to put their names under that category. Because we believe that a filled seat is a better story. And we want to see God fill the seats, fill the hearts, reorder worlds, and reorder our world. And so, church, we want to invite you to begin to write down those names. Those people that could show up to our Redlands location, those people that could come to those interest meetings, and maybe perhaps sit next to you in a service on a Sunday. Because God is up to something. And we have hope in our hands. We have hope in our hearts. And may we be a church that could be defined as dirty hands and holy hearts. Let's pray together. God, thank you for being so good to us. Thank you for inviting us into a better story. Thank you for stirring our hearts for what's great. Thank you for being a God who has come and has died and is resurrected from the grave. Thank you for reordering our world, and thank you for reordering my world. And I pray that today we would move away from impossible and we would lean into possible, because you are a God who says that all things are possible. And may the names that we put on our card would not just be platitudes and names because we got a card today that we write down, but may the names that we put on our card be names that we begin to pray for, we begin to invest in, we begin to invite, and most importantly, we begin to model godly character and godly integrity, because it's our story of changed life that will change somebody else's story. May we be a church that has dirty hands and holy hearts. In Jesus' name, amen.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark, fleshed out the wonder of life. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will Nature inside is follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all revealed your nature so alive, I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky and canvas of your grace. Your creation still obeys you so alive. So Church, sing this out with me. If the stars were made to worship, if the stars were made to worship, so alive. If the mountains bow in reverence, so alive. If the oceans roll your greatness, so alive. For if everything exists and lifts you high, so alive. If the wind goes where you send it, so alive. If the rocks cry out in silence, so alive. If the sum of all our praises still falls short, then we'll sing again 100 billion God of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Lost and lost, so I could find it here. If the stars were made to worship, so alive. I can see your heart in everything you made. Canvas now, the star of grace. Your creation still obeys you so alive. I can see your heart in a billion different ways. I'm a child you died to save. Your creation still obeys you so like you would again 100 billion times. No measure could amount to your desire. You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
I love the words of that song. So will I. And we dive in, we jump in, we lean in, we say it's possible for us. to do a great work, that our dirty hands are a reflection of our holy heart. In this moment, as a church, we pause and we give back through what's called a tithe or an offering in the Bible. And that literally just means that we give back a percentage of what God has been so good at giving us. Many of you have leaned in and have said, I want to be somebody that's all in. I want to be somebody that gives back, so will I. We talked about the all-in card about a month ago and 4 categories of places where we wanted to raise some resource. And you guys have been so faithful in giving that we've been able to launch this campus. We've been able to do some tech upgrades. And now we're just going to lean into building that kids' playground just across the way because we want an experience for our kids where they can lean in and engage Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And so anything that you give this morning, know that it goes towards life change. There's 4 ways to give. We're going to pass some buckets here in a minute, and if you are going to give that way, you can get prepared for that. If you'd like to give online, you can go to activechurches.com/give. If you want to give at our giving kiosk, it's just outside in our lobby area, and it's very easy and it's accessible. And maybe for you, you just want a text to give. And so there's a number on the screen, and all you need to do is, if it's your first time, text give to that number. It'll set up some information for you, and then from this point forward, you just put the amount and hit send, and it'll go towards life change. So church, thank you so much for your generosity. We aren't able to do what we do around here without you. And so leaders, if you would come forward and we can collect this morning's offering. Just a reminder that first step is today at 12:30. We'd love to invite you back and have some lunch with us. It's a great opportunity for you to discover what God is doing at Active Church. And you may have noticed that we've set up our baptismal pool today. Next week is Baptism Sunday, but today after this service, if you'd like to stay and hang out, we have a couple that's going to get baptized, and we're so excited for them. He got a job starting next week, and so we decided to move up their baptism till today. And so if you'd like to join us, we're going to celebrate life change this morning. This is why we come and we're a part of this. Kyle and Kelly Bailey, they're an incredible couple. So if you want to come and gather around the pool, you can, and we'll celebrate them. For the rest of you, God bless you guys. Have a great rest of your Sunday. See you later, guys.